Hello, and welcome to Law Talk. My name is John Celebrezze, and I'm the co-founder of the Celebrezze-Zangi Community Legal Education Project, as we call it, CZ-CLEP for short. Our organization provides continuing education about the judiciary and legislature to attorneys, judges, government officials, and the general public. As a career educator, I recognize early on how important legal matters are and how they impact our lives. I am the nephew of the late Anthony J. Celebrezze, who was the popular 5-term mayor of Cleveland and a member of President Kennedy's cabinets. As a tribute to his lifetime commitment to the legal process, we dedicate this show.
John's guest today is the Honorable Julie A. Schafer. After graduating from Medina High School, Judge Schafer earned an associate's degree as class valedictorian from Brooks College in California. She spent many years working in the private sector and operating her own business before graduating summa cum laude from Hiram College and then completing the dual degree program at the University of Akron, graduating with a Master of Business Administration and Juris Doctorate degrees. She has served many years as a court-appointed special advocate and guardian ad litem in the Summit County Courts. She was re-elected to the Copley's-Fair Lawn City School Board of Education 3 times, serving 14 years. Judge Schafer was elected as a judge in the Akron Municipal Court in November of 2013. The following November, she was elected to the 9th District Court of Appeals for a term starting in February 2015.
Judge, welcome to Law Talk.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here with you.
Well, thank you so much for being here. We heard you got a new job.
I did get a new job.
Okay. And we just couldn't resist but to look you up and see how you were doing with that new job. So would you mind answering a few questions for my viewers today?
I'd be happy to.
Okay. For the benefit of my viewers, Judge Schafer is a Medina person. She graduated from Medina High School.
I did.
And she's had a number of experiences both in the law and some other places which we're anxious to talk about today. But I suppose this is not your first judgeship, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay, so I guess I know firsthand is that you sat on the municipal bench in Akron for how many years?
1.
1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 1 year packs a lot into that particular job, doesn't it?
Well, it's kind of a high volume type situation. There's a lot of people coming through that court.
Okay. And we've had both of our municipal court judges, Judge McIlvain and Judge Chase, on the show. Both very interesting shows, and misdemeanors are what are dealt with at the
Every day at the municipal level. Yep.
But this job, this is a different type of judgeship altogether, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you all about that here in a second. But so I don't get ahead of myself, because I think it's really important for our viewers to know, and I'd kind of like to know too. What inspired you to become a judge?
Well, I guess fundamentally it seems like even though we have laws and rules, it seems like in many instances we find ways to make exceptions for this person or this group or that group, and then pretty soon the law becomes subjective and it doesn't apply evenly to everybody. And it shouldn't matter what race or gender or socioeconomic background you are. The law should be blind and should be applied equally to everyone. And that's what makes this country exceptional. Our founders believed that we could rule ourselves if we were all presumed to be equal. And so I'm a judge because I think they got it right. And I've taken the oath to protect the constitutional laws of the state of Ohio and of the United States of America six times over the last 16 years. Yeah. As a school board member and then as a judge twice. So to be free, we have to defend it every day. And the world has turned into a crazy place in the recent past. So I'm inspired to do what I do every day to ensure we don't lose sight of what makes this country the greatest place to live on the planet.
Well, that's a very thoughtful answer, Judge.
That's why I'm here. I work for you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. All right. Well, your background, and actually, as I mentioned you before the show, and I'm always somewhat interested in this, being an educator myself. I was a public school teacher and administrator for 30 years before I became a lawyer. You actually sat on the Fair Lawn Copley Board of Education. Is that correct?
Copley Fair Lawn City Schools.
Okay. And for how many years?
14.
So you were actually elected their 4-year terms?
Yeah, I was in the middle of my 4th term.
Yeah, I see. Mm-hmm. We could probably make a show of that sometime too, just on experience you had as school board member.
School board is a very, it's a very very close to the people. You know, if you want to get a good experience with dealing with people, that's the place to do it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's a group that I worked hand in hand with for 30 years in my personal life, and we actually had a member of the state school board on our show here a few years ago. It was kind of an interesting, again, one of those people that sometimes our viewers don't know about of the things they do, and I do believe to some degree that is true with appellate judges. I mean, I've had Jennifer Hensel on our show, as well as Judge Belfance. I think Judge Dickinson. I mean, these were your colleagues, but it's always kind of interesting to talk with you and see it from the appellant perspective. So that's the perfect segue into this very general question that I'm going to throw at you. What does an appellant judge do?
Well, people who aren't happy with the ruling that they got out of municipal court or probate court or domestic relations court or common pleas court, and they think the law was misapplied in their particular situation and they're not very happy with it, they can file an appeal. So an appellate judge looks at the written briefs that are filed by the parties. The appellate is the one who's complaining that the trial court got it wrong, and the appellee is the other side saying, no, the trial court got it right, and you should just affirm what they said because they got it right in the first place.
Okay.
So the appellant is the one that's saying, no, they got it wrong. Can you please fix this for me? So an appellate judge looks at the rules and the laws that were used in that particular case to see if they were applied properly and they conform to the rule.
Okay. So about 50% of my practice nowadays is criminal. At the end of each cycle, there's a sentence given usually by a common pleas judge. If in fact my client was not happy with that, they have the right to appeal to your court, because I practice primarily in Medina.
Mm-hmm.
But doesn't the Court of Appeals judge take in several counties?
Yeah, the 9th District Court of Appeals covers Wayne, Lorain, Summit, and Medina counties.
Wow.
So that's 1.3 million people, actually.
Okay, in our local courthouse, albeit here, Wadsworth Muni, which is just down the street from us, or over in Medina, places you're very familiar with, of course, you know, we all come to the courthouse door to do with them. But do you sort of ride the circuit on these multiple counties? Do you go?
Yep, this week we're doing Lorain County. We always sit in here Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings. So this week on Tuesday and Thursday mornings we were in Lorain County. So we were up in Judge Walther's court. He's the probate judge in Lorain County.
I see.
So we use his courtroom those 2 days. In Medina County we use Judge Kimbler's courtroom.
Right.
And then in Summit County we have our own court. And then in Wayne County, we haven't been to Wayne County yet. But it's in the Wayne County Courthouse in Worcester.
So actually it's kind of an old term from
It's a circuit.
the Old West, but the circuit judge, you sort of play that role. I mean,
Yes.
you literally go out. And when you come to like I've seen you in Judge Kimbler's, I've seen the court in Judge Kimbler's, you come in a panel of three.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a panel of three. Mm-hmm. But on the entire court, Judge, how many appellant judges are there?
In our appellate district there's 5.
There's 5, okay. So you could be mixed and matched in the various counties? I mean, it's not always
It's always a random selection, yeah.
Okay, so your 2 colleagues are not necessarily always the same?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So at the end of the day, what you are there for, you and your colleagues, is to take a look at the proceedings of an individual who feels that, well, they're just not satisfied for whatever their reason. I'm sure their lawyer writes a brief that in ad nauseum gives you a lot of reasons.
30 pages.
Okay. And then you need to decipher through. But so a lot of this is you familiarizing yourself and making decisions about was it done properly or not. So there's a couple things come to mind on that, and probably the paramount. What do you do about it if you what do you do if you say, there was a mistake here? How do you handle that?
Well, I guess one of the problems that we have is that the court can't fix what didn't happen right at the trial court level.
Okay.
If something wasn't objected to that should have been, or something wasn't complained about that should have been complained at the time,
Yeah.
we can't go back and fix history. You know, all we can do is deal with what you brought to us in those 30 pages and what's in the record at the trial court level.
Okay.
All your files from down there get sent up to the Court of Appeals. So all we can look at is what was there.
Okay.
You know, so you're looking at what was the law that was applied, and was it applied fairly and appropriately, and then you look at what happened in the case. And if it turns out that, you kind of didn't get this right, it should have been done this way, and I don't know, we're kind of thinking Maybe not. You know, you look at what the case law says over the years, and you look at what the statutes say, what the Ohio Revised Code says, and then you can either reverse what was done before and send it back down to have them do it again, or you can affirm what they did and say, no, they got it right. I think a lot of the times they do a very good job.
Sure.
They do a very good job, very thorough job, and it's tough being a trial court judge because things are happening live in front of you at this moment, and you know it's going to live with you forever. So, most of them do a very, very, very good job.
Okay, so there's two. I mean, your choices are two. If you're not satisfied, if there is a rule of law issue that you and your colleagues, I take it, is it majority rule of the three of you?
Yeah, 2/3.
If 2/3 decide no, then you're going to send it back, and you're going to tell the lower court judge, albeit a common pleas judge or a municipal court judge,
or a probate judge, or domestic relations judge.
You know, you're going to have to try it. You can do it again,
yeah.
Or you're going to affirm it. At that point, is our litigant done, or do they have another option to appeal it to a higher court?
Well, whatever they do at the lower level, it has to be a final appealable order. It has to be final. Because then we can look at it if it's final. If the case isn't over yet, we can't look at it.
Okay.
So if it gets sent back down because it's reversed, then they do it again. And if it's not right again, they can come back up again. But it has to be a final order.
Does it ever pass you, though, and go to the
Sometimes
Supreme
they
Court?
go to the Supreme Court, yeah. If the litigant thinks that, hey, the Court of Appeals got it wrong too, then they can appeal to the Supreme Court.
We had a Supreme Court justice on our here as a guest once. It was very interesting, and I think they have a great deal of discretion as to what cases they'll take or they won't. But in your court, I don't think you don't have discretion if it's appealed.
You have an appeal of right
within a proper time period. They have an appeal of right, so they're going to get their day in your court.
Yep.
Okay, now that's the next thing I want to talk to you about as far as the day in court. And this is pretty interesting talking to you because you have been at that lower court. I mean, you've been in the trenches, and I think Muni Court is the trenches in some ways. Okay, so you know very well. I think you probably from your own experience, well, missed a step here. We need to go back, and I mean that. But I guess getting there though, and I've had the opportunity, let's say, of doing this, of standing in front of the Court of Appeals. And as a matter of fact, as a personal aside, the whole purpose of the Celebrezze Community Legal Education Project, or who we somewhat honor, is my uncle, who was a federal judge, and I had to, I'm sort of proud of him and of the things that happened there. I watched him work a couple times with moot court competitions, even before I was a lawyer, and I really felt sorry for the litigants because they, he was just brutal as far as, asking them questions and throwing them off guard and whatnot. You folks were not that bad with me. I mean, I'm not here to complain at all. But you can stop a lawyer, can't you, while he's on his roll? And,
yep.
Okay. And that's pretty good lawyering to take that interruption and get back on his momentum again. Do you see that? I mean,
well, and you can see that as well because now all the cases, all the oral arguments at the 9th District Court of Appeals are on the website.
Yeah.
So you can go watch. The camera's not trained on the judges. The camera's trained on the attorneys.
On the attorney.
So you can actually watch the cases now and listen to the argument that they're making.
Well, that's great. Well, that's kind of having lived through it myself, and only a few times in my career as a lawyer. I mean, it was an interesting experience, and it was always interesting to think about later on, why did she ask me that question? So I mean, it's quite a process. Okay, shifting gears. We got to keep moving along here. What's the difference between a muni court judge and an appellate judge? You sat in both seats.
Well, the municipal court, as I said, is really the one that's closest to the people because that's the one we use most often. I mean, that they deal with traffic cases, criminal matters that don't land somebody in jail for more than 6 months, misdemeanors, and civil cases like from evictions to repossessions and credit card defaults, business-to-business conflicts. Your neighbor's dog bites you. I mean, they're everyday stuff that we deal with is municipal court for the most part, and it really is the people's court. And so an appellate judge looks at the decisions that a municipal court judge would make. So even I had a case with failure to take care of a disabled adult case. I mean, that was it was a 6-month sentence you could have gotten on that. It's a misdemeanor. But I mean, that's a case that was heard in a jury trial in my court. So there are things are pretty serious. You can ask for money up to $15,000. So there's some pretty serious business-to-business conflicts that come up too that are tried to either a bench trial, which would be just the judge hearing the case, or a jury trial. So there's a lot of things that happen in municipal court that are day-to-day law that we all live with. And so the difference is the appellate court doesn't get to see that, though. The trial court gets to see the people
Right.
testify, they get to see the evidence, they get to be there firsthand to see all that stuff happen. And that's what makes them closer to us
But as
real
an appellate
people.
judge, you have to see it through the briefs.
Right, and I have to defer to those judges because they're seeing the people, they're hearing the tone of voice, they're seeing their body language, they're getting a better picture of it than we are at our level. We're seeing pieces of paper. We don't get to hear the inflection in the voice. We don't get to see what's going on that the trial court judges see. So there's a lot of deference given to the trial court.
Okay. All right. I guess I'm going to just skip ahead a little bit because you having sat in both places now, I mean, but this will really help explain the appellate court to my viewers. Kind of go through, if you would, Judge, your typical day as an appellate judge.
No, my typical day as an appellate court judge is reading, and researching. Because we hear 12 cases a week, and they're each side submits 30 pages. And there are all kinds of citations to case law and revised code and things like that. And we're talking about a wide variety of things that can come to you at any moment. It could be a child custody matter. It could be an aggravated
Sure.
murder the things that come to you are totally different. 1 minute to the next, you're suing the real estate agent. I mean, all kinds of things that happen. And you need to be somewhat familiar with all these different things.
Yeah.
So you're reading through the brief and you're saying, why are they citing that case? So you're going to go find out, what did that case talk about? Why did they talk about that case? So some of this is research that you're doing as you're reading through these briefs, but you also be able to ask questions when those attorneys come before you.
Sure.
And be familiar with their case, know what they're there to talk about, know what they're asking you to do, and be familiar with a fundamental familiarity with what it is they're talking about.
So there must be some days, I assume, an entire work day that, as you say, read. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, when you're reading 12 30-page briefs, and it's Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you sit a lot. I mean, I sat the day after I took office on a Monday. I had to sit and listen to oral arguments on Tuesday. And I was in municipal court on Friday, so I had to read all those cases and be ready to hit the ground running come Tuesday morning when I'm sitting on the bench. So reading through these things and taking the time to think through them requires some quiet thought, which is a good thing because it's very quiet in the appellate court.
You just about have to be. Well, from my own very limited experience and you weren't on the court at that particular time that I made my case here, it's been a year or so ago, there was no doubt in my mind that those three judges were very familiar with my case because they would have never asked me the questions they did if they didn't. So, and my colleague as well, the prosecutor. So, I guess, I'm kind of a generality, but is there like one category of case, Judge, more so than other that you'll see come up on appeals?
I think criminal cases,
Really?
for the most part. I would say probably 30% of
About
the
a third of
cases.
them.
Seems like 2 out of every 6 cases we do every Tuesday or Thursday is a criminal case. And generally they're asking, can I have my sentences served concurrently, or can I get a new trial? That's generally what they're asking.
Do you get constitutional issues like the search was no good? Or
Yep, a lot of driving under the influence, OVI.
Yeah.
Suppression hearings. They're asked on appeal for a suppression hearing that was either granted or not granted. So a lot of OVI stuff comes up too because you get more operating a vehicle under the influence charges against your cases, then your penalties escalate.
Sure.
So repeat offenders, they don't want to have those things keep happening. So yeah, a lot of OVI suppression.
So we've got, I just mentioned search, that's the Fourth Amendment, but
Due process.
the due process, I
Yep.
mean, for Miranda decisions that we've seen TV show police officers,
Bad warrants.
you
You didn't have a reason to serve that warrant.
so stuff that may have very well come up in a suppression hearing, the defendant was not successful, he moved on to trial, it was adjudicated, but it's got to be a final appealable order.
Right, it has to go to trial first.
So I mean,
before
he
they-
has to be, frankly, has to be punished if he lost, and then how many days?
He's got 30 days after sentencing. He's got 30 days to file his appeal.
I see, okay. Don't do it in 30 days, forever hold your peace?
Exactly.
Okay.
There's some things you can, but it's technical.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, it's for the benefit of my viewers, it's an important question because many people don't even know that they have that right.
For the most part, yeah, you need to get it in
and-
right now or have a
and-
dang good excuse why you didn't.
And sometimes I gather from my own practice that my clients are very frustrated at how slow the system moves. They call me, John, when are we going to go in the car? Well, we got another continuance, whatever. But that's 30 days that somebody needs to heed very carefully, or you're going to lose your right to appeal, correct?
Well, and a lot of times you'll file the appeal to secure the time. You still have time to get some information together. You're just nailing it down. So if you're going to go forward, you're going to go forward. But sometimes you need to do some research to make sure I got an appealable thing here.
Yeah.
And you really don't have within 30 days all that work done. But at least if you nail down, I want my appeal going, you can always withdraw it or dismiss it later if you want to do that.
And then the oral argument will come actually several months later.
We have to wait for the transcript to be prepared from your hearing.
So
the
is there a
record to be
typical,
put together.
a criminal case? How long would you say approximately that one case would, until you've actually rendered a decision? You're going to send it back or you're affirming. About how long?
Criminal cases seem to go pretty quickly because a lot of it is repetitive stuff they're asking, and the law is the same. Generally the things they're asking for are things that are pretty common, so the law doesn't really change a lot. So a lot of it is repetitive in many
Well, appreciate
ways.
the fact you frankly haven't been on
Right.
that long, but you think we're talking years or we're talking months?
No. In fact, juvenile court cases like dependency, neglect, and abuse cases, permanent custody type things, those have to be done within 60 days. You have to have your decision out within 60
So
days.
that could move right along.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to shift gears, Judge, because I just know something about you that I want my viewers to know about you. I'm going to skip the question, what do you like about your new job, because we all know you like your new job.
I do.
But can you share with our viewers the most memorable court case you ever had?
Well,
I mean, this doesn't necessarily mean you're appellant.
Right, and the way you said I ever had. Well, and I guess from my perspective, the most memorable court case I ever had was the case I tried by myself as a layperson in California back in 1984. I wasn't an attorney. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, working in a fabric store. But I was driving my car, my old Ford Fairmont, on Burton Way, and I approached the intersection of Rodeo Drive and Burton Way,
Rodeo Drive,
right in the middle of Beverly Hills. And this guy comes up on the right side of me, and he tries to turn left in front of me, and of course he shoves right into my car, and then he pushes me into oncoming traffic, and I'm hit. The left side of my front was hit by a Southern California Edison truck, a big Southern California Edison truck. And the guy in the car next to me, he jumps out of his car and goes running off. So it turns out he's an illegal alien from Germany, and nobody ever saw him again.
Wow.
So Southern California Edison was suing me to fix their truck. And I'm like, I didn't cause this accident. I'm not going to fix your truck. So I refused to give them my insurance information, saying, I didn't do it, I'm not telling you. So they ended up suing me for this. So I go into Los Angeles Superior Court, and I had my little poster board thing with my little cardboard cutout cars and the truck and everything, showing, the judge asked me what happened. So I showed him with my little, makeshift thing here, this is what happened. So he looks at these, highfalutin attorneys from Southern California Edison, looked right at the guys and said, did that what happened? And the guy said, yeah. And he dressed them down like nobody's business, dismissed the case, and I walked out of there. I thought, okay, justice was served. This was awesome. But I was just, it was, what was I, 27 years old?
I think that is really
it was
a cool
inspirational.
story. I mean, and you never know where we're going to go. One of the, you were on the school board and I was a school teacher for it. One of the coolest things about being a teacher is to eventually see where your kids came out. And I mean, you actually were a seamstress at that time in your life, right?
Yeah, when I was living in Los Angeles, I was, yep.
But that, I mean, we just have just a little bit of time. But it's kind of, you actually made costumes for very known movies, or? Yeah,
the fabric store that I worked at was right down the street from 20th Century Fox Studios in West Los Angeles. And so I met a lot of people who were, the people that would buy fabric for big movies. And I knew the person who worked for Lucasfilm. So I was working for
Star
Lucasfilm.
Wars.
Yes, I've been in the vault fixing the costumes for Darth Vader, through 3PO.
Now there
Boba
is
Fett.
a unique judge, ladies and gentlemen.
right.
She's been in the vault with the costumes of
all of them. Yeah, they keep them locked up. But when they get, they get damages from wearing them. And they've loaned me costumes to recreate them. I made a Darth Vader costume for a character to fly around the country, like to Marshalls and TJ Maxx. They were the merchandising Darth Vader. Their job was to shake hands with little kids and scare the bejesus out of them. But they'd sell sheets and towels and things like that. They were the merchandising guy. But I made costumes for them, and they would send them out in the world to do that. So it was a pretty good costume.
I got to tell you, Judge, I've had the pleasure of interviewing a lot of judges on Law Talk over a number of years. But that is the most unique background I have ever heard of, and I don't even think I mean, I remember Star Wars, that, you know, I'd actually be talking to somebody that was that involved with the costumes. I don't think any other judge is going to top that story.
I've had C-3PO's costume on.
Oh, you've had it on.
I was going to do a commercial for the Bank of Spain, and Anthony Daniels and I are exactly the same size, same height, same weight, same everything. And so I was going to do this commercial till he caught wind of it and said, nobody's wearing that costume but me. So I didn't get to do the commercial, but it's very confining costume.
Judge, I see our time is running out, but I'd like to do a couple things. Obviously, thank you for being my guest on
I'm
Law
happy to
Talk.
be here.
And then extend the invitation to you anytime you'd like to return and discuss your activities on the court. By all means, please let me know.
I'd love to. Thank you for the invitation.
At CZ Clip, we're devoted to the education of today's legal issues. Fueled by the public's keen interest in our legal system and current events, CZ Clip is dedicated to the educational venues aimed at enhancing the understanding by all citizens. For a complete listing of dates and times for this telecast, tune in to WCTV Channel 15 or log on to wadsworthcity.com and follow the links to WCTV.
I'm John Celebrezze. Please join me in getting a better understanding of the law.